joining today. Get comfortable. All right. So, thank you so much for being here today with us, and hopefully a nice conversation, and all of you get to ask questions at the end. So if you have a question, keep it in your heads, and you can ask it later. So today we have Seb here, and for all of you that may have not been to our events, the first question that we usually ask here is, how did you get into computer science?
How did I get into computer science? So after high school, I didn't really know what I want to study. So I was lucky that I was able to go to the United States where you don't have to pick a subject. I actually wanted to study international relations. Like my goal was always to become the first German-Ethiopian ambassador in Ethiopia. But like my first semester, another friend, also called Seb actually, told me, "Oh, why don't you take computer science with me?" And I was like, "No chance in hell. I'm not into computers. I like other stuff. I like science." But took the class. I think at the beginning it was a bit bumpy, but the professor did just such a good job explaining computers to us. Like I think he was just phenomenal at it that I kind of fell in love with it, and then I stuck with it and kind of studied computer science. So it was in college.
Wow, so in college having the first kind of interaction with it, that's quite late, I guess. Yeah. And for you that don't know, that was at Stanford, right?
Yeah.
So maybe just for some context, you went to Stanford for the bachelor's and also did your master's, but okay.
I kind of started my master's while I was doing bachelor's, but I didn't finish it. So.
Okay. So first of all, why Stanford? How come? How do you make the step from being here and then go to Stanford, especially for a bachelor's?
I mean, I don't know. I remember in my 9th grade book, like I had like this goal, what I want to be when I'm older, and it said teacher, and it also said I want to study at Stanford, and I honestly don't know like why I had that in there, and I guess like it's just something, I don't know, maybe it was a Social Network movie or something like that. But like, I don't know, like I also was lucky that my mother said in the US, I have an American passport, so it was like not as far-fetched to go to the US, and just got very lucky to get in.
So about Stanford, maybe let's talk a bit about that, because I think Stanford in general has a very big reputation and a lot of, I think, things that all of us associate with Stanford. So what was your experience like there? Is it more of a, I'd say, self-fulfilling prophecy that all of the computer science grads from Stanford somehow end up starting big companies and going to USC?
Yeah, I think obviously there's like a myth around it, which is obviously not true if you look at most students who are there. Like most students are, I think like the average is quite engaged, quite interested. I would say like relatively smart, but it's not like they're like a bunch of geniuses like running around. Just like very normal people, and you obviously have like the super crazy kind of super smart people. Like my freshman year, I started with the 2 Brex founders, but they like started Brex like 6 months into college, so you have like these type of people. But I think most people are like as they would be in any other university. But I do think just the confidence they give you is quite powerful. I think that what leads to a lot of people like looking like they're successful from the outside, because like the university kind of breeds confidence into you versus like I think in Europe especially, it's always like you're good but you're not good enough. And there's the opposite. You're not that good, but they say you're the greatest person on earth, you're going to change everything.
So something maybe to change here. Make that happen here. So maybe what was the kind of biggest thing that stuck with you from your time at Stanford that maybe still sticks with you today?
I mean, like obviously like my friends, but I think kind of what I just said that
you're the greatest. That you were the
no, like the opposite, like that like the people who like do cool stuff are not necessarily the greatest. They just kind of do it. You see people in your grade that you know, you've seen like very drunk, like not necessarily very smart, like looking very smart in that moment, like able to achieve like crazy things, and you notice, okay, like all of us can do it, and it's not like they're here and we're here. It's just gotta just try. And I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But there's no reason for you not to be able to achieve the same things.
So let's kind of fill in the gap. What happened between you leaving Stanford and you eventually starting telli? So, of course, I did some research and I found out that you worked at several startups. I guess most of the time at Pitch, you spent there. And you, in your previous experiences, you've had some engineering experiences, but also some product experiences. So, kind of, let's fill in the blanks. Why, or from a computer science, coming from Stanford with a computer science degree, what made you go into this role? What kind of happened that you ended up, first of all, back in Berlin? As I guess most computer science graduates from Stanford don't really come back here or move here at all. And what kind of led you on that path?
Yeah. So actually, like after my first year in college, I wasn't quite happy with being in America. To be quite honest, like I felt kind of, I don't know, just finished high school, worked very hard in high school, and then like going to college, and it was just like a bit. I was talking to my friends at home. They're living in cities and kind of living an adult life, and I like. There was a bunch of rules of stuff that I can't do, and I felt like I'm back in school. So I actually took a year off, came to Berlin, and worked at N26 back then as like business development because my coding skills weren't good enough for the engineering team. But also that when I met my current girlfriend, and I guess that was the main reason I wanted to come back after college. And so that's the reason why I came back to Berlin. The other question was.
What kind of led you from this having experiences at startups and maybe going a bit into product, also a bit into engineering? What was that path like?
I think
why the back and forth and maybe what insights?
Yeah, I think the back and forth is only because I can't make up my mind. And it's like everything kind of looks interesting and I kind of want to try it out. But like, so after college, I was very sure I wanted to do engineering. And that's what I did at Pitch, and then after 3 years, like it became kind of repetitive. I was thinking like, okay, what can I do? I was thinking maybe I would leave, but then we kind of started to change the organization such that every team would have a product manager, would have to own the outcome of the team, and thought that was quite interesting. So that's why I basically transitioned. In retrospect, I think like the way I'm thinking about like how we want to set it up in telli is more that. You have engineers who do both of the work, so they don't have to like create all the tickets and have to give to the engineers and they work on it, but more
the product engineer.
Yeah, I guess
yeah. So about the experience of working at a startup before founding the startup yourself, did you always want to found your own startup? Was that something that you kind of always wanted to do, or was that something that you slid into?
So in freshman year, like I mean, high school, I thought it was like way too far away to even start anything. My freshman year, the guy in the room next to us, he was a senior, and he actually just got into YC, and he told me he got $500,000 for his company. I like could not believe that that's even like a thing that you could get that. And definitely like there I was like kind of interested in like maybe doing this myself and like seeing that that's a possibility. But it was never like I need to do this in my life, otherwise I'll be unhappy. And I guess the reason why we ended up wanting to start telli was more that I really enjoyed working with my two co-founders when we were just kind of ideating, and kind of this dream of like kind of creating a team where you really love working with every day, and you have the highest leverage to create such a team if you are kind of the person setting up that team. So I think that was the main reason. It was not as much as having a company or starting a company, more like the image of the team that I hope we can build.
And kind of having that experience of maybe working at a startup or a company that you don't have that experience, that you have the team that you want to build, the product that you want to build, and the kind of, how do I say, the motivation as a founder would have. Do you think it is, I don't want to say necessary, but do you think it is important for a startup founder to work at a startup before jumping into founding a company themselves?
I mean, there's already some bias because, like, I think the way I did it was good, and like if you ask somebody else, they'll say something else. I do think it's very hard if you come straight out of college and you haven't seen how the good engineering teams work to kind of emulate that. You have other things that are good, like you may be younger, you maybe think about more crazy new ideas, so I wouldn't say it's necessary. I think for me it helps, but I don't think, I mean, there are plenty of examples of people building gigantic companies without never worked anywhere, so yeah, I think, I don't know if there's as big of a correlation.
And you said that you enjoyed working with your co-founders so much that this kind of led you to found your startup. So maybe go into how did you meet your co-founders? Was that a previous work experience? Was that friends before? How did that all come together?
Yeah, it was actually one of these super awkward, like, maybe I want to start a company community things, which it was just weird, but Phil reached out and we kind of talked, and that was in January. And I was also talking to a few different companies, talking to different people, and we just like kind of like small projects together that were not related to telli at all, and kind of saw, like, we always want to think, like, do we, the three of us, want to create something no matter what? Like, it could be a VC type of company, it could be like a bootstrap company, it could be whatnot. And we just kind of took it that way, and then yeah, we got connected to this like community, and then just worked a couple of months of different projects, and at some point we were like, okay, this is working really well. Let's see if we can close a customer with this idea, which was telli. And once we did, we decided, okay, let's incorporate and actually do this.
So about that idea, you said you've workshopped quite a few ideas before that.
Yeah.
Maybe some
really bad.
Really bad.
I don't know. It's like CRM for energy brokers was the one we applied to YC the first time. We obviously did not get in. Had like, I don't know, just random stuff. We were a lot in the energy industry because like my co-founders were Enpal before, and it seemed like something that would be interesting. But then quite quickly we noticed, hey, you don't want to start a company in 2024 and not do something cool with AI. So eventually came back to the idea of telli, and that's the first time we were actually like extremely excited to do it.
So you had two attempts at getting into YC?
Well, I mean, the one that we didn't get in, and
yeah. Okay, 2 attempts, yeah. What was I going to say? So you said that the problem that you eventually focused on, decided to work on, was motivated by something that your co-founders had experienced earlier, and maybe go into that process. How did you come up with it, but why did you decide to work on this particular problem?
Yeah.
And maybe what were the factors that you initially thought might not be a great fit, or what factors really made you excited about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't assume most of you know what we actually do. So we build AI voice agents for B2C companies. So a lot of companies that sell to consumers, especially if you sell more expensive goods like solar panels, heat pumps, kitchens, what you actually want to do when you sell a product is call the customer to see if they're interested and qualify them. And these calls are quite important, usually to drive like conversion and kind of make customers happy, but they're also very cumbersome to do. And I think like the way we came up with the idea is just like, honestly, I was playing with like some stuff on 11 labs, and Philip like scaled the heat pump unit of Enpal from like 0 to 150 employees. So they saw like how hard it is to actually do this type of call operations. So we tried to sell like this, in this case, heat pump. And we just were like, wow, this is just going to look so different in the future. And they were like, why don't we try to build that future for these type of companies? Yeah.
So maybe fast forward, you decided to work on this project, you got really excited about it, you applied to YC. What was the kind of journey like? At what stage did you decide to kind of, I mean, you applied to YC before, but at what stage did you, with telli, did you decide to apply?
It was never like necessarily the goal to get to YC. Actually, there was no fall batch, so we actually didn't even think that we were going to do YC, because we figured until the winter batch probably already would have raised. That might have not made sense. I don't know, it's just like, I mean, we had 3 customers when we applied, and it was kind of just something that we all thought would be cool to do. I actually was not as excited about it at the beginning. I was very skeptical. Yeah, like, if you go to Stanford, you just see a lot of people to go into YC and kind of loses the charm. But then I think it was like one of the best decisions we made. But it was not like we do this again in YC. It was like we want to build a great company, and the YC fall batch opened up, and it was like, okay, let's apply and see if that works. Yeah.
Why would you say that it kind of lost the charm? In what way that having so many people in your friend group and like your peers go to YC, what made that lose the charm?
I think not lose the charm, but it
took away the magic of it, or
yeah, it's like if you look at it on pure like financial terms, it's not a great deal. I mean, like, oh, why should I give up so much equity for like this money, and all these other people did it, and most of these companies don't exist. You kind of start thinking about that, and I think that was definitely the wrong way to think about it. Yeah, I think it was just like probably on me kind of not just being smart about this.
Okay, so what you got into YC, and these points that you just made, did that change, or did you kind of have a perspective shift right away, or did that take some time for you to kind of get rid of these like?
Yeah, I think like after the first day, I kind of like was like, oh, this is actually really cool.
Okay.
Because I mean, you think like, oh, we have these videos, and it's just all the knowledge is out there, and you can just like get it from the videos. But I think there's something very special about being in a room with all these people that you kind of look up to, and they speak to you. And I think it's very similar to like my college experience, where you just breathe confidence into you that might not be justified, but it just helps. It's just like, I don't know, doing some type of human psychology. It just helps if they're like super smart people that kind of tell you, hey, you can do this, and you can get more customers, you can grow faster. And here are all these people who are in your shoes, and look at them and their gigantic companies. Like, you can be one of them. Like, that just somehow helps you. Even if from a rational perspective, you know this, but there's like having somebody else tell you it's just very helpful.
So having the kind of advice that self-confidence and actually constantly and persistently kind of working on your product and getting better every day, that's like a confidence boost. In a way.
Yeah, they motivate you, confidence that you think I can actually get there. And obviously there's a lot of small things that are just very helpful, and like you have always peers to ask that those sort of things. They've seen so many companies, they can very quickly give you feedback on, like, okay, first day, we come into our office hours, we have these 3 customers, we barely have a product, and we go like, we think we're gonna spend some time working on a product because it doesn't exist, and I'm the only coder, like we need to like build it. And then our group partner was like, so you want to stop growing? And we're like, no, we just want to build the product to do more sales. He's like, so you want to stop growing? You can either build your product and have more customers, or you can build your product for your 3 customers. What you want to do? Like these small things, like they kind of seem not as important, but in this moment it was like, oh shit, he's so right. You need to go full on gas and get much more customers and kind of like build it while we. And I think like for first-time founders that are not as experienced, like these small decisions can kind of really make you much slower if you think, okay, actually, build my product now, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to start sales in 2 months, and then these are 2 months that you lost, which are really painful.
Yeah, especially if the batch is just 3 months. But
yeah.
And kind of, you already said, building product is part of it, but not the only part. But what about your approach to building product really change, or how did your approach kind of evolve during the batch?
I think there didn't change that much. To be honest, like I always thought YC is all about like building products. They couldn't care less about the product. They care about you solving a problem for customers. And the way you do it doesn't matter. It's just like that you do it fast, and that you don't bullshit yourself, that you think you're solving a problem that you're not. So I don't think the approach to building the product necessarily changed a lot. It was more thinking like, how can we always make sure that each line of code you write somehow is solving a problem for a customer.
And you said that, there's this famous statistic for YC that like 50% of all companies that actually get into YC pivot in some form or change their company in one way or another. That did not happen for you. You did not make a major pivot in any way. What would you say is the kind of made you stick with the problem? Was it that you already had customers? Was it that you saw so much traction that you saw the demand? What was the kind of factor that kept you going even in a lot of like an ecosystem that encourages you to try out new things?
Yeah. It's quite brutal. Like you see these people coming in the first idea, and like Diana was one of the group partners. She's like very hardcore. She's like, yeah, this is really bad. You need to change this. And like you need to put it like next 2 days you need something new. So it's like they're really much about if you don't have traction with customer, and if you are kind of basically not making any money, because like making money is kind of a variable you can use to see if people really want what you want. You kind of change. Yeah, and I mean, as you said, like we had 3 customers and we were growing, and people were using our product. So I think we were lucky in that sense that we could just focus on execution and not have to rethink a lot of stuff. But we rethought some parts of it, but not really.
So I think the YC experience is, of course, something a lot of people aspire, and something a lot of people have in their bucket lists, so to say. If you could break down your experience at YC, what is the kind of core point that you all also experience in your daily work? Like what comes back to you from that experience that you can still use in a very effective way?
Yeah. I mean, to the first one, like that's actually something that the partners were talking about the first day. They said, like, YC started full of nerds that wanted to build cool stuff, and it's become this like bucket list item for a lot of people. And I think, and I don't think that's the right way to think about this. I think, it helps you. I believe it helps you, especially if you haven't done this before, if you're doing this for the first time, to help you build a great business. But the motivation factor always needs to be like, you want to build a great business, and like not do YC to do YC. I think, what I take from day to day is like the very simple things, the things they say all the time, like it's something that customers want, like dumb it down, don't overthink stuff, like. It's very basic, but like the thing is that you don't do it, and you always have to remind yourself that to keep it simple and kind of subtract away all the fuss that you create in your head, and just kind of execute and stay with it and have fun while doing it.
So, fast forward, you completed the YC batch. Did you do it all 3 months in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's fully in person.
Okay. Yeah, it used to be like.
Yeah, it used to be like.
Okay. And after the batch was over, what made you kind of come back to Berlin? Was it a decision you made right away? Was it beforehand? Did you stick around in SF for some time?
Yeah, like every single week our group partner was like, okay, so you're going to move to SF? Are you going to move to SF? They're like so hard. Like, you can't believe how hardcore they are, but like you should not go back. I think almost to the point where they would love to forbid it for you to go away. I mean, the reasons why we came back was once most of our customers were in Germany, we have network here, we all had our partners here, and kind of the belief that you can also create a great company here, and that's kind of like what we wanted to do. Is that going to be harder for us to be like a multi-billion-dollar company while building in Berlin? I think yes. Does it come with some advantages? Also yes. So yeah, for us it was a personal decision that we wanted to come back.
And what kind of challenges would you say do you face here in comparison to yourself?
I think like, in the US, first of all, the market's much bigger, so you can just make more revenue more quickly. Customers are much faster to try your product. Like, we have a few US customers, and how quickly they onboard is very different compared to like a lot of European customers. I think like from a hiring perspective, I think people who like have an insane drive, want to build something really big, but who can like own customer problems, end to end, understand product, understand engineering, and the whole package. I think is like a bit harder. Is harder to find here than in SF. In SF, you have other things like people leave your company to other cooler companies, but I think like if I talk to my friends who are in SF, like I think that's a challenge that you have here compared to SF.
So the talent pool is more.
Yeah, I don't like to say talent because it always sounds like people here are not talented. It's more like I guess the mindset of the technical talent here is different, I think, to a lot of people.
And maybe about the kind of opportunities that you see here. You said the market, your previous customers were already here, so that's more suppose. But what kind of opportunities do you still see here, and maybe what benefits are here compared to yourself in 2 years?
I mean, like the thing which I think that's my take with AI agents is that it's very different to software that you can't just like easily localize it. You can just translate it. Like there's a lot of like subtleties. I think I would argue like we were one of the best German voice agents there because we understand the language, the culture, and like can prompt that into them of our agents. So I think that kind of creates an advantage. And I do think there's probably to some extent less competition from US players here, which probably makes it easier for us to close customers. Yeah.
So maybe let's now get into the more technical side of things. You with telli, you built an application layer, and what the application layer has its own challenges compared to things like infrastructure providers and to other technical providers. If I'm not mistaken, you use Bapi.
Not like, by now it's only 50%. Next week it will be 0. But yes, we started off with Bapi.
Yeah. You started off with Bapi, yeah. I mean, it's a great tool, a great starting point that kind of takes all of the associated setup and work with it. So what kind of value do you see in this application layer? I mean, of course, getting to the customer faster, delivering them something that is really usable for their specific case, but going into, there's always this notion of, some big AI company will take over the whole stack, so to say, of delivering value for clients. Well, how do you think about that? Is that something that you are worried about, so to say?
Yeah, I mean, like, I change my mind about this like every week, so that's just like what I'm thinking about right now. And also, I don't think anybody knows like what the hell's going to happen with this, because these models provide so much value, and I think we're just scratching under the surface. And who's going to be able to use them, how, and bring customers how, I don't know. Like, I'm not worried about the model providers, because like, if you actually think about the call operations, like the kind of businesses we're focusing on, there's a lot of business logic that you have to build custom if you just use OpenAI out of the box. That I'm not too much worried about. I think at the end of the day, like, it's just grow, make something that your customers want, and just hope that you're not somehow going to get destroyed by somebody. And me worrying about what might happen in 2 years, yes, you need to like think a little bit about like your long-term defensibility, but doesn't keep me up at night. I think like the people we have to be, the one thing I'm scared about is if at some point it becomes so easy to deploy these voice agents that the companies that are currently in these businesses, like an AirCall or these call operations companies, could just offer this. But I still think there's some type of innovative dilemma where startups will be able to grab the market versus big economic players.
So, especially going to voice, last year has been just a really, really big year for voice. And what would you say is the timing that you guys have with telli? Is that something that came because of these big advances in voice, or was it something that just happened to be at the same time, kind of?
I think that because I mean, I was using 11 labs, like, and I was like, holy shit, this is so good. Like, and before, we probably wouldn't have come up with the idea if there weren't models that were like good. And I think actually we started right at the right time, because I remember the 11 labs model that was out back then was so many tokens with the audio stream that kind of like just it doesn't work. It doesn't work in production. And like stuff is unreliable. Like in Germany, you can really just use 1 or 2 transcribers, which are not perfect. But like because there's so much focus on it, like everything's getting better, and that means our product gets better without us doing anything much. I think that's something. I'm not sure if that answered your question. That's something that's
So you kind of make sure that you build your product in a way that kind of co-evolves with these advances in modern products.
So our like the way I see it, like we need to make sure that our customers always get the very best voice AI that's out there without them having to worry about it. So we need to be the people who understand the space, have the evals, figure out like what makes sense for which use case, and just give them the best possible solution without them having to test a bunch of stuff out and switch their models out and whatnot.
So kind of providing that abstraction for the customers that don't worry about anything, we'll take care of the voice.
Yeah, you don't want to, if you use, I don't know, Notion, you don't think about if they're GCP or AWS. Like, just, it's a product and it works. But
sure. So, saying we fast forward a bit, let's see where it takes us. What's next? What do you see for telli? What's the, not only product-wise, but also maybe team and company building-wise? What's next for you?
I mean, maybe first from the product side, I think like right now we are in one use case, which is like this pre-sales qualification stuff. That's what we're focusing on. And I think the first challenge is to actually get this to work very reliably, where it's just like, just all more customers that come in, they see conversion lift, and it's like very easy kind of to sell. And then I think the step 2 will be, okay, how does the platform look like for these call operators who are managing like their call ops? And we strongly believe that humans will still make a lot of calls, even in the future. And we don't think we will buy your lead bomb from just an AI. And like, how do you build a product where humans and AI voice agents can kind of collaborate together, and you can manage that, you can kind of understand how you increase the conversion, you can make sure that you have memory. For example, like if you buy the heat pump and you call like 3 days later, it's like, oh yeah, you bought 3 days ago, like how can I help you? Like kind of that type of platform, we don't really know what it is going to look like, but that's kind of the thing that we're going towards. And I think team-wise, it's just like it gives me personally so much energy to work with ambitious people who love doing what they do, come in with energy, who you can work together and kind of achieve great things, and that making sure that we keep that type of culture and not become some bloated startup that just hires all the time and kind of nobody kind of feels really engaged or driven anymore. Like that's my goal. Like rather stay small and have super driven people who kind of own things end to end and who just love working together versus just growing a company for the sake of growing a company.
So kind of keeping the culture and encouraging good product and developers taking ownership. About the product side of things, you said you envision a kind of cooperation between the human and the AI, the assistant. Where do you, I mean, currently, but also maybe in the future, where do you think that line is drawn? What kind of operations will the human still be not better at, but maybe more suitable for? And where do you kind of make that distinction?
I mean, that's the big question, right? And I think to some extent, the product needs to be in a way where also the business can kind of figure this out themselves or decide themselves. I think what it comes down to is, I do believe that at the end of the day, like the AI will be better probably at these jobs than most humans will be. Same with probably programming. But there's, I think if you buy something, you might still just want to have a touch with a human. You just want to see a human, talk to them, know it's a real human, it's not a robot. And I think these are the type, like the more emotional stuff where it's not like do this or answer this question, but more you want to have the relationship to somebody that you know is there. I think these are the type of calls that won't be replaced by AI, because you will always know it's an AI, even if it works very well.
When we had Scott Chacon, the co-founder of GitHub, on here a couple of months ago, he had this interesting take that no matter how, or basically no matter how good the AI gets, that example was specifically for coding, the kind of missing feature, or the thing that makes humans still more suited or more exceptional for one job is taste, having this kind of sense of what's good and how to interact.
Yeah, actually, I very much agree that. Like, I think it's about like your opinion, right? I mean, why do not most startups just work with software agencies? They're great software engineers, they do great work. It's because you want to get a team of people who have like opinions, who want to do things a certain way. And if you have like the perfect generic coding agent, you still somehow have to give that agent your opinion, right? And I think that maybe that's what it kind of gets down to, and I think I actually agree with that. That being said, you might be able also to prompt that taste into an agent, who knows, but you'll still have a human who like makes these type of decisions, I think.
We're going to be jumping into questions from the audience now. Eva will come around with the microphone.
Hello, and thank you for the conversation. My name is Nico. My question is about you said about that your co-founders they had experience in these call centers and they saw problems. Can you go deeper on that? Like what kind of problems they saw and how did you solve it? And maybe on the MVP level product, like how did you solve those things?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the question about like kind of how what the challenges were that my co-founders saw in call first, right, and how I solved this. So I mean that's me coming from what they have with me, but so if you run these type of collaborations, first of all, most people were quitting after 2 or 3 months because the job sucks. You have no idea what is actually happening in your calls because it's very hard to get an overview. So at one point they had like a conversion drop, you can see it in the numbers, but they had no idea what the hell was happening, why it was dropping. And they listened to like a bunch of calls and noticed, okay, some policy change, and that's why people don't want to buy heat pumps anymore. We need to now retrain our 150 agents to be able to communicate that, which is also going to take another month. So it's like these people always think about like how can I come up drive conversion, and I think that's like kind of the knobs that you need to let them twist.
How did you solve it with the MVP?
I haven't solved it yet. I mean, like we're still very early. We started in July, but I think like what we have solved is kind of the initial call that we are able. Like one of the things also like okay, imagine you sign up for a solar panel. You're gonna sign up on 5 different things, and the first person who calls you probably gonna just take that. So you need to be able to call quickly and like kind of show that kind of convert them. So that's I guess something we've solved because you have like an auto data, guys right away. If you don't have time, like you can call back and you say, hey, thank you for calling back. Like this type of stuff we have solved, I guess. But there's a lot of things that we still need to figure out. Are you gonna pick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Jeffrey, and you said you were interested in studying international business because you are from Ethiopia, and I want to ask, what are your plans for you extending your company to Africa?
I mean, I don't think this one. Maybe next. I mean, like, unfortunately, like I don't speak American very well. Like, I grew up here. It was always like my dream, kind of maybe do something different as well. But I think like to be successful in another country, you really need to understand the culture deeply. And even though I understand it, I'm not sure if I understand it deep enough to be able to be successful at some point. But it's definitely something that is sort of on my bucket list, but I think it's going to be hard to do it with telli. There's just different economics.
Sure.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alyssa. I'm curious about the feedback you are getting from the customers of your customers, so the actual people who are being called.
Yeah, so at the beginning, obviously, we were a bit scared that, like, it does sound very scary. And you think, like, okay, like some robots could call me, it's going to suck. And, you have people complain. But actually, like, most people are actually quite happy about this. Like, they want to be called. It's not like we do cold calling. They say, like, please call me. And they're like, I remember listening to one call, and you have obviously had consent to listen to it, but like, the person was like, oh wow, like it's 9 p.m. you called me, that's great. Like, I have time now. Because, like, probably didn't want to, I don't know, like, sign up at 9 p.m. and we called them right away. And I think, like, if it solves your problem, you don't end up caring as much. I think, like, we all are kind of primed, we think about these, like, to continue these plus 3. And it seems annoying, but if you actually do a call and it does whatever it solves your problem, I think you change your mind quite quickly that it's actually much nicer than what you had before. But yeah, still a challenge.
Hey, thank you for your really cool interview. How excited are you about models like Sesame? Like that, the naturalness of, or how important do you think is that for your product?
Yeah. Look, like there's so many things coming out all the time. Like if I would try like everything, like I would not be able to make a good product. But like I think this is great. Like you want the most natural sounding models. Like in the case of Sesame, like I don't think it's really production ready. But we need to get to a stage where we're not there yet. That it makes it so easy for us to test these new models that if something like this comes out, it's much better. We can just next day switch it and do this. Right now, the problem with a lot of voice models is that they demo very well, and then if you actually use it for production cases in German, like stuff doesn't work. And you also have to be very careful what you're going to send to the wild to like real people. And you don't want it to go kind of haywire. But yeah, I'm generally very excited when I see these type of things.
Hey Seb, thank you for coming. I'm Jan. Thank you for your interesting story for sharing with us. I have a question. Could you please give me your insight? How did you get for venture investments and what metrics was important for them?
Yeah, I think like honestly, we got extremely lucky. Like we started fundraising when we had like 3 or 4 customers. And while we were fundraising, we got the acceptance of the YC, and then we kind of told the VC that we are not taking your money from it. No, we're going to not take money now. We're going to do YC, and then after that, probably a raise. And I think they were, I don't know. They then decided to give us like great terms now that we would have expected it after YC, and then we got the funding. I think it's not the usual story. I think we were very lucky, like kind of right time, right place, and it went very quickly. We just announced it today, but it was actually last week, but it was we did that in September.
Thank you. We can unfortunately not answer every question, but thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks to Seb, thanks to Matteo for being on stage. You can surely stay a little bit until Merantix kicks us out, but yeah, go drink and have a good evening, and hopefully see some of you next time. Thanks.